Hey guys, all right, this is your part 2 of notes. So 6.5 rhombi and squares. Let's see here. All right, some things you need to know about a rhombus. It's a quadrilateral with all 4 sides are congruent. Okay, so that's what makes a rhombus a rhombus. A square is a quadrilateral with 4 90-degree angles, which means, well, perpendicular, and 4 equal or congruent sides. Okay, so a square, let's just kind of write this down. All sides equal, all 90-degree angles. A rhombus, I want you to know that this angle and this angle are different. And these two would equal 180 degrees. So those two together. So angle, wait, should I put this? Angle 1 and 2. So angle 1 plus angle 2, I know I did that completely weird and backwards, equals 180. All right, anything else there I wanted to show you? I think that's it. Okay, so let's talk about parallelograms. Parallelograms. I love the word because it has a set of parallel lines in it. All right, so in a parallelogram, that's what goes here, opposite sides are parallel. So what are our differences? So in our rectangles, we have 4 right angles. In a square, I love these little lines, we also have 4 right angles. In a rhombus, they are congruent sides, and squares have also congruent sides. So that's what they're trying to say. So a rectangle and squares have the 90-degree angles. Square and rhombuses have sides that are equal. That would be the difference. Okay, so let's go down here. So if a parallelogram is a rhombus, then its diagonals are perpendicular. So that forms that 90-degree angle. Perpendicular. So that's that. So if this is a rhombus, then AC and BD are perpendicular. Okay. This next one, if a parallelogram is a rhombus, then each diagonal bisects a pair of opposite angles. Okay, this is what's weird. So the word bisects means to divide equally. This is different than the rectangle. So that means if this one is 70, then this one would be 70. Okay? So that would make this 140. In a rhombus, this and this equals 180. So this 3 and 4, would be 40, and then each of these would be 20. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Kind of have to look for those things. Okay, so if angle 1 would be congruent with angle 2 because they are equal, angle 3 and 4 go together, angle 5 and 6, and 7 and angle 8. Because it bisects, it cuts this angle in half. Any time you hear that bi, it means splitting in half equally. Okay, anything else? On this one, you want to look for that perpendicular. And then here you're looking for that 90 degrees. So 180 here. If it was, oh, we're doing squares later. Okay, that's just a rhombus. We'll leave it at that. Okay, so here, if the diagonals of a parallelogram are perpendicular, that's what this means. Then the parallelogram is a rhombus. So if JL and KM are perpendicular, then it becomes a rhombus. Oh, you can't see that. Sorry. There you go. All right, flip the page. All right, so let's put this to practice. So if one diagonal of a parallelogram bisects, which means divides equally, a pair of opposite angles, then the parallelogram is a rhombus. I think I already talked about this, but here we go again. Okay, so 1 and 2 are equal, 7 and 8 are equal, 3 and 4 are equal, 5 and 6 are equal. Okay, again, this whole thing plus this whole thing equals 180. So that would be almost like consecutive angles, and we're going to talk about that. So if one pair of consecutive sides of a parallelogram are congruent, then the parallelogram is a rhombus. Okay, so what does the word consecutive mean? One, then the next. So for example, here's a line and then my next line is here. So here's this line. This would be consecutive because it's the next line. Since these two are congruent, then therefore, this is going to be congruent. Then it's a rhombus. Okay. So if a quadrilateral is both a rectangle and a rhombus, then it's a square. Because it has the equal sides and it would have the 90-degree angles. So equal sides, angles, 90 degrees. So we have the diagonals here of this rhombus, and it's intersecting here. Okay, so what else do we need to know? We know that since it's a rhombus, because it told us it's a rhombus, all of these are equal. Also, we should know that this and this equals 180. Okay, it's always good to know. Okay, so the diagonals intersect. If angle W, Z, X, way over here. So they're talking about this angle here. Just this part. Anybody shouldn't have marked that. Is 39.5. That means this other half is also 39.5, by the way. We need to find Z, Y, X. Did I do the first one right? W, Z, X. So that little guy. Okay, so we just talked about this. So if we know this is 39.5, this is the same as that. Okay? So that would also be 39.5 times 2. So is this where we are? So we would take 39.5 times 2. So this whole thing here is going to be 79. Okay? So this one and this one are the same. So if we wanted to find this whole y, because it's a z, y, x, it's this whole thing, we would take 180 minus that 79, and that's going to give us 101 degrees. Hope that made sense. These two are congruent, these two are congruent. Since this was a bisector, this little section was 39.5, so that means this little section 39.5. Together they equaled 79. This one would be 79. These two together equal 180. All right, so now we're talking about the diagonals. So if WX is 8x minus 5, WZ is 6x plus 3, find x. Well, since both sides are congruent or equal because it's a rhombus, we're going to set those two things equal to each other and solve. So subtract 6x, and then I'm going to add 5. So 2x equals 8, x equals 4. I love math. Makes me feel good. All right. So here's Hector. He's measuring the boundary of a new garden. He wants the garden to be square. He has a set of he has set each of the corner stakes 6 feet apart. So all of these are equal. We know that. What does Hector need to know to make sure the garden is square? Again, this is no different than the rectangles. So you're going to do your diagonal. So I would know this to this, right? I need to make sure that this is perpendicular. So my diagonals are perpendicular. And congruent. So this is where it's different than a rectangle. These you have to have the perpendicularity, and otherwise they would just be congruent. Okay. All right, so go ahead and plot these points and label. And I'm going to remind myself to make these bigger next year. All right. Again, everybody might do this differently. Did I do that right? 3, 2, okay. So determine if it's a rhombus, a rectangle, or a square. All right. So first of all, let's see if our sides are all equal. So I can check my sides by, I'm going to do this in a different color. Maybe that would help. I wasn't too thrilled on what I did on that last example when we did this. Let's use this red pen. So from here, I'm going to make a right triangle from point to point. So this side is going to be my hypotenuse. So I'm going to make this a right triangle. So up 1 over 1, 2, 3, 4. So one side is 1 and one is, so we have 1 squared plus 4 squared. From here to here, I'm going up 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1. I will draw that line. So again, it's 4 squared plus 1 squared. So far, they're equal. This is 1, 1, 2, 3, 4 doesn't matter how you're doing it. So that's 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's almost kind of like a rise and run. Okay, so all of those are obviously equal. So my sides are equal. That's one thing. Next thing we need to check is to see if these are equal. So we would go from here to here. So from A to C. I'm going up. Actually, I almost need another color. Yes, I'll use a pencil. So from here, I'm going to use this as my hypotenuse. So I'm going up 1, 2, 3, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 3 squared plus 5 squared. Well, this looks like a mess. And that was AC. BD. I am going to do from this point to that point. So I'm going up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3. So 5 squared plus 3 squared. So those are equal. So my diagonals are equal. Therefore, it could be either a square or a rhombus. Diagonals, sides. Now we can't prove that that's a 90-degree angle, but if we prove that the sides were equal and the diagonals are equal, we can assume that these are 90-degree angles. Okay? Hallelujah. We are done. You can start your 2 assignments. If you have any questions, please, please, please reach out and stay up to date every day. You guys do an amazing job. I'm not for sure why I'm saying that. I'm just trying to, it's the beginning of the year. I've got to make sure you understand that and just start off well. All right.